Sometimes I get asked, how can you use NLP in business? In fact, some people find it quite surprising that we do use NLP in business. So I think you can divide the applications into four main areas. The first one is the area of self-management. So this is all about the things that you do to keep yourself focused, to be clear about your goals, to manage your energy, to get yourself in the right frame of mind to do whatever needs to be done. And of course, on days where things don't quite go according to plan, it's about being able to pick yourself up, dust yourself down, and kind of go again, have another attempt at whatever it was that you were doing. And I think those skills are really important. Some years ago when I first started teaching NLP, I would think that was important mostly because organisations at that time were getting flatter. And so the amount of time that anybody got to spend with their line manager seemed to be reducing, sometimes at quite an alarming rate. But here we are in 2021, and I think one of the reasons why the skills of self-management have become really important recently is because so many people have been working at home, and so many people have not had access to their boss on a one-to-one basis except electronically. And lots of people have found that their own resources have been the most important for them during that time. So that's the first thing, self-management. The second area of application of NLP in the business world is all about communication. And to be honest with you, that's the reason most people come to learn NLP, is because they want to understand other people better, and they want to be able to influence, get their point across more readily. And in many cases, it's about being able to build better, longer-term relationships that are really productive. And so that's an area that's quite well known. In terms of what you actually learn, it's probably mostly to do with decoding the patterns in somebody else's language and their behaviour so that you can understand a little bit about how they like to operate and then make your communication fit with the way that they operate so that it's easy for them to engage with you and perhaps easy for them to say yes to you. So when we're talking about communication, it's not just about one-way traffic. It's also about being able to present yourself in a way that it's easy for other people to engage with you. So communications is a big part of what we do with NLP. The third area then is the area of modelling, which of course is where NLP came from. It's modelling in the sense of creating a model of somebody else's skill. So the early patterns of NLP were decoded from observing excellent communicators and figuring out what were they doing that made the difference. That gave rise to the techniques of modelling, which we can now use to model any kind of skill that anybody has. So you can imagine that in the area of learning and development, there's a great deal to offer here. Because if you have people in your organisation who are really excellent at what they do, then a modelling approach would say, let's decode what those people are doing that makes them a little bit different from others, and then we can teach it to everybody else. So that's another area where NLP can be very productive in the business arena. The final area is what I think of as emotional balance. There's always been some controversy about how emotional it's good to get in the business world. I think we kind of have a heritage of thinking that being businesslike means being objective, being unemotional, not letting things get personal, and maintaining a sort of rational approach to everything. That's in the UK, at least. I know there are other parts of the world where emotion in the business is allowed. It's legal tender, as you might say. But for many organisations in the UK in particular, people being emotional has made us uncomfortable. And so we do have this kind of background culture that it's a good idea to stay objective. But the reality is a lot of people bring emotional baggage to work. If you think about people that you probably know more than one person who at some point in their career has been made redundant. You probably know people who've been on the receiving end of a merger or a takeover. You probably know people whose organisation has done a reshuffle and the job that they knew and loved disappeared and suddenly they're being asked to do something else. And that's without people who might have been unfortunate enough to have experienced bullying or harassment at work. And in some occupations, there's always the danger of actual physical harm. So probably a lot of the people that you know have some kind of emotional baggage that they take to work with them. And the problem with that is, of course, it stops you facing today just on its own merits. It means that some of that stuff that happened in the past comes through and affects the way that you do your job. Maybe it makes you a little bit more cautious, maybe it makes you a bit cynical. And so some of the NLP techniques that we use enable people to work through some of that old emotional baggage, to learn from the experience, yes, but also to move on. And then to be able to take today on today's merits. And in terms of productivity, that makes a massive difference. So those are my 4 top areas where you can use NLP in business: self-management, communications, modelling, and emotional balance. There are probably others, but I think most of the things that we could do would probably come under those 4 headings. And of course, if you'd like to know more about any of them, you know how to get in touch with me.